lady, Melanie Greenhouse, who helped form the Arts Café Mystic 27 years ago with Christy Williams. Christy couldn't be here tonight. I envisioned us all reading at the end. We're going to open with Melanie. We're going to finish with me. Here I am speaking, so I'm this sort of parentheses. And I always like to start an evening of poetry and listening with a poem that's in my own. So here's a great poem by E. Cummings that features parentheses. He says, since feeling is first, who pays any attention to the syntax of things will never wholly kiss you. Holy to be a fool while love is in the air, my blood approves. And kisses are a better fate than wisdom. Lady, don't cry, I swear by all flowers. So laugh, leaning back into my arms, 'cause life's not a paragraph. And death, I think, is no parentheses. So as we open the parentheses, let me please welcome Ellen Bentley Baum to the mic. I was going to do introductions for everybody or ask them to do their own. Let's just hear the words, right? Come on, I didn't forget that. Come on.
It happens. You memorize a poem and then forget something else. So just moments ago, Lisa asked me if I would reminisce about the origins of the Arts Cafe, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm like Mark Twain. It takes me a good 3 weeks to create an impromptu speech. But yes, 1994, I co-founded the Arts Cafe with Christy and ran it for its first 10 years. And I think what strikes me incredibly much is the community support. By your presence coming, you're supporting poetry and this amazing series. And Lisa deserves a Medal of Honor for coming through during So thank you, Lisa, and for experimenting with this open mic. She said I could read 2 poems, one by myself and one by another poet. So since we're in a season where a lot of freaky things are happening, nothing freaks me out more than the vanishing natural landscape. So this first poem, it's an old one, but it's pertinent. I call it Ecology, and it comes with an epigraph. Suburbs, where streets are named for trees that used to grow there. The trees are coming down. The trees are coming down, and houses are going up. Big houses are going up. The houses. Huge houses are going up. For children are being born. Yes, children are being born. Genetically engineered children are being born by 2s and 3s and 4s, which means more cars are being built. Big cars are being made to carry the children being born. So more oil wells must be dug to fuel the cars and heat the homes that hold the children being born by 2s and 3s and 5s. And the roads must be made wider, for more cars are on the roads, and the deer look so bewildered. Where's the wilderness, they wonder? The deer. Hunger, bewilderment in their eyes. Now street signs bear the memory of trees: beech, birch, hemlock, maple, oak, spruce. Memorials to ghosts of trees. Speaking of ghosts, this is the poem by another poet from the classics, and I chose him because he was a Czech poet, and my parents were Czech refugees. So I'm hoping the spirits of Anna and Polly Ehrenwald will enter the space, and they will feel this poem. It is called Black Cat by Rainer Maria Rilke. A ghost, though invisible, still is like a place your sight can knock on, echoing, but here, within this thick black pelt, your strongest gaze will be absorbed and utterly disappear. Just as a raving madman, when nothing else can ease him, charges into his dark night, howling, pounds on the padded wall, and feels the rage being taken in and pacified. She seems to hide all looks that have ever fallen into her, so that, like an audience, she can look them over, menacing and sullen, and curl to sleep with them. But all at once, as if awakened, she turns her face to yours, and with a shock, you see yourself tiny inside the golden amber of her eyeballs, suspended like a prehistoric fly. Thank you.
Nancy Burns Fusaro, are you still here? Do you have a granddaughter on the way?
Granddaughter is on the way.
For those of you who don't know Nancy Burns Fusaro, she's obviously extraordinary. She's our great friend from the Westerly Sun. She writes to me when I don't send her press releases and featured you guys, the Carlines, yesterday on the front page of the Guide.
And this wonderful exhibit.
And tell us who's coming soon.
Our first granddaughter. We're waiting for, she'll be number 7. We have 6 grandsons, so we're eagerly awaiting a little girl on the way. And in addition to 6 grandsons and a granddaughter on the way, I have 4 sisters. And my youngest sister, Elizabeth, is a poet, and she lives in Minnesota, and I speak to her every day. And I said, I call her Betsy. Oh, Betsy, the craziest thing happened. This wonderful, wonderful woman, Lisa Starr, I've talked to you about her before, called and said, could I read a poem? And Sam and I read a poem. She said, you have to read this one. I'll read it to you. So, being a good Irish woman, it's called Donald Og, and it is translated from an anonymous 8th century Irish poem by Lady Gregory. And I did cry when she read it, and she cried when she read it. It is late last night the dog was speaking of you. The snipe was speaking of you in her deep marsh. It is you are the lonely bird through the woods, and that you may be without a mate until you find me. You promised me, and you said a lie to me, that you would be before me, where the sheep are flocked. I gave a whistle and 300 cries to you, and I found nothing there but a bleating lamb. You promised me a thing that was hard for you, a ship of gold under a silver mast, 12 towns with a market in all of them, and a fine white court by the side of the sea. You promised me a thing that is not possible, that you would give me gloves of the skin of a fish, that you would give me shoes of the skin of a bird, and a suit of the dearest silk in Ireland. When I go by myself to the well of loneliness, I sit down and I go through my trouble. When I see the world and do not see my boy, he that has an amber shade in his hair. It was on that Sunday I gave my love to you. The Sunday that's last before Easter Sunday, and myself on my knees reading the Passion, and my 2 eyes giving love to you forever. My mother said to me not to be talking with you today, or tomorrow, or on the Sunday. It was a bad time she took for telling me that. It was shutting the door after the house was robbed. My heart is as black as the blackness of the snow, or as the black coal that is on the smith's forge, or as the sole of a shoe left in white halls. It was you that put that darkness over my life. You have taken the east from me. You have taken the west from me. You have taken what is before me and what is behind me. You have taken the moon. You have taken the sun from me. And my fear is great that you have taken God from me.
This one's called Dimes. In our house, ghosts call for their mother from upstairs chambers. They paw at our reclined feet and hide appliances in the topmost cabinet corners. I see you, thank you. Penny's too lucky for the memory of a red sky morning. Grandma simply asked her dad for dimes. Other families don't feel their ghosts so closely as to frame them above the mantle to choke up their names at grace. Remembered only in needlepoint and silver, their girls don't romp the yard in pursuit of butterflies, squealing vo-vo, vo-vo in summer jubilee. Could the little girl, knee-hugging curious in the parlor, imply rapture? No one mentioned our dead dog until she did a trick for me. I see you, thank you. Television psychics suppressed my spook until both turned featureless but tangibly mystic. Waiting as the bells ring as it travels to the field's far reaches. I stack your silver boxes and cross-stitch the anecdotes of the way you loved me. Just when it feels like some ghost left us for dead, there's dimes in our Christmas stocking, dimes in the grass. One more, not yet named. Sick to the back teeth with my own creation and the black rooster shape-shifting behind Peg's house another summer. I've seen a child make a man a better person, force him to enter the wild bramble of himself and befriend his more kind, more thoughtful twin. The robin brave enough to stay put a northern winter can teach this persona, so terrifying in its goodness. The sun is stronger if you just sit still in it. The boy who hid his report cards on their home plate on a windows down, ice cream down afternoon has nothing to say to his own daughters. Yet I gather pieces of myself and place them gingerly on a tea towel by color and shape. Do you like what you see? Thank you.
There's a lot of poets here. A lot of people want to say a few words. I'm just going to play you a song. It's like a 50-minute murder ballad. The truth is, I think we all are pretty aware that change happens fast, and this is a song about that. Caroline said no, case closed. You cannot get sick and leave us now. And she rose to the window, looking down on the street where she froze. She said, James, we both made mistakes, we both played a hurtful part. But the thought of losing you right take us for granted or treat you in a dismissive way. Just get better today. In the corner, they had leather. Off the metal, they had rust. But now and then, there's gonna be moments to shake out the dust. You see, Charlie drove 200 miles a day. His job was always taking him away. His kids just gotten used to it with Charlie, and he missed a lot. Soon things like birthdays he forgot. Did not see the truck jacking across the lane. He swerved and he missed that back truck jacking in the pouring rain. SUV ended up backwards on the rail. Inches from extinction, he can almost hear the sirens wailing out home. His children, the only things on his mind. That was the end of his daily grind. In the corner he had clutter. On the metal he had rust. But now and then there are moments that will shake out the dust. CTV report broke in. Said Delta Flight 306 fell out of the sky near Dallas and crashed into the sticks. And it stopped our argument and it shattered the tents of what we had been bickering about. Suddenly seemed like such nonsense. Yeah, in the corner we had clutter. On the metal we had rust. But now and then there's gonna be moments that will shake out the dust. And now and then there are moments to shake out the dust.
Charlie Ewers. Okay, Charlie Ewers is one of my top 3 favorite English teachers, but since the other 2 aren't here right now, I'll just say it was Charlie Ewers in 10th grade at Ledyard High School in a public speaking class that taught me how important it was to memorize some poems. Would you like to hear them now? I've got 5 Robert Frosts. No one knows after apple picking. Welcome to my Charlie Ewers, one of the greatest English teachers ever.
Thank you, Lisa. I was only 17 when I began my career in public education, so we're actually much closer than you would imagine. This has been a year of, every time I turn on the news, it's, oh no, what now? And this summer I had a what now moment with the news that we might get a hurricane. This poem is called Henri. For 3 days of ominous alerts, the swelling storm Henri dominated the local news and just churned its way north. Its possible course projected in diagrams most closely resembling a score of escapees from a worm farm climbing my basement wall. Exactly when and where would it make landfall? Although I doubt that Henri gave me mail one way or another, would its winds hold hurricane force when it came ashore? The off-burn power company Eversource warned us that we could lose electricity for up to 21 days, a message sure to boost any doubter's confidence in its readiness. Add to that the full moon, the already saturated ground, the dense tree canopy covering the state, and sweet Jesus, my debilitating condition of living an adult life in bourgeois ease. I was certain that the sky would fall and I would get very wet in the process. And then the storm hit early Sunday morning. It was scary, high winds and torrential rain, and 4 hours later, it was over for us. Unlike some, we didn't lose power. There were leaves plastered to the car, branches strewn across the yard, and the turf felt like an engorged sponge, but that was about it. Had my worry been for naught? Should I be aggrieved that the storm was much less than it was forecast to be? Shall I rail at the legion of meteorologists who twisted the shorts of my anxiety to the point I could barely walk? I may be a wuss, but my stupidity has its limits. However overwrought the prelude, there is certain relief that comes with good news when expecting the worst. 8 months into a high-risk pregnancy and a delivery by emergency C-section, a healthy baby was born. The growth that the dermatologist lifted from my scalp last month tested benign. The outcomes could have been bad, but they weren't. Fixating on the worst possible scenario seems endemic in these times. It can't be good for our souls, but it makes for riveting television. Realizing there was going to be a lot of writers here tonight, in a spirit of collegiality, I'd like to share how I go about writing a poem. This is called my writing process in bullet points. 1, I have no ideas, nothing to write about. 2, I recall advice from a workshop. Write what you know. It will lend authority to your voice. 3, I remember it wasn't the same workshop where I was counseled that the path to discovery is to write about what you don't know. 4, I choose bullet number 2, showing my preference for something over nothing. 5, so I write a poem about yesterday's thunderstorm. 6, it comes together quickly, I love it. 7, I read it over several times, decide that my passion is well grounded. 8, I tweak it a bit, a word here and there, mostly punctuation and line breaks. 9, it dawns on me it's all shit, and no amount of tweaking will save it. 10, suppressing the urge to do something instructive with my time, I type it up, knowing it will look better in print. 11, it does look nicer, and it's much easier to read. 12, I put it in a 3-ring binder with all my other unpublished poems. 13, days go by. I have nothing to write about. My pondering becomes worrisome. 14, weeks pass until I recall the words of the late Leo Cannellin, former poet laureate of Connecticut, who told me, it's a poem if you say it is. 15, free from the shackles of beauty and significance, I write on.
It's been an ongoing pleasure to continue to be there, and it's an unbelievable pleasure to have been invited to this situation. Thank you all for coming. Mark, I love your music, and I have a couple of things I'd like to present to you. I'm a huge Billy Collins fan. Billy Collins is aspirin. Billy Collins is a gin and tonic with too much gin. Billy Collins is an escape from everything. If you ever want to escape from everything, read Mr. Collins' things. And the first part that I will read to you is function of poetry. I woke up early on a Tuesday, made a pot of coffee for myself, then drove down to the village, stopping at the post office, then the bank where I cashed a little check from a magazine. And when I got home, I read some of the newspaper, starting with the science section, and had another cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal. Pretty soon, it was lunchtime. I wasn't at all hungry, but I paused for a moment to look out the big kitchen window, and that's when I realized that the function of poetry is to remind me that there is much more to life than what I am usually doing when I am not reading or writing poetry. And this is a selection I like because I like my workshop, and it's entitled Workshop. I might as well begin by saying how much I like the title. It gets me right away because I'm in a workshop now. So immediately, the poem has my attention, like the ancient mariner, grabbing me by the sleeve. And I like the first couple of stanzas, the way they establish this mode of self-pointing that runs through the whole poem and tells us what words are food thrown down on the ground for other words to eat. I can almost taste the tail of the snake in its own mouth, if you know what I mean. But what I'm not sure about is the voice which sounds in places very casual, very blue jeans, but other times seems standoffish, professorial, in the worst sense of the word, like the poem is blowing pipe smoke in my face, but maybe it's just what it wants to do. What I did find engaging were the middle stanzas, especially the fourth one. I like the image of clouds flying like lozenges, which gives me a very clear picture. And I really like how this drawbridge operator disappears out of the blue with his feet up on the iron railing and his fishing pole jigging. I like jigging. A hook in the slow industrial canal below. I love slow industrial canal below. Oh, all the L's. Maybe it's just me. But the next stanza is where I start to have a problem. I mean, how can the evening bump into the stars? And what's an obligato of snow? Also, I roam the decaffeinated streets at that point. I'm lost. I need help. The other thing that throws me off, and maybe this is just me, is the way the scene keeps shifting around. First, we're in the big aerodrome and the speaker is inspecting a row of dirigibles, which makes me think this could be a dream. Then, he takes us into his garden, the part with the dahlias and the coiling hose. Though that's nice, the coiling hose, but then I'm not sure where we're supposed to be. The rain and the mint green light that makes it feel outdoors. But what about this wallpaper? Or is it kind of an indoor cemetery? There's something about death going on here. In fact, I start to wonder if what we have here is really two poems, or three, or four, or possibly nine. But then, there's that last stanza that's my favorite. This is where the poem wins me back, especially the lines spoken in the voice of the mouse. I mean, we've all seen the images in cartoons before, but I still love the details he uses when he's describing where he lives. A perfect little arch and an entrance in the baseboard. the bed made out of a curled back sardine can, the school book thread, or table. I start thinking about how hard the mouse had to work night after night collecting all these things, while the people in the house were fast asleep. And that gives me a very strong feeling, a very powerful sense of something. But I don't know if anyone else was feeling that. Maybe that was just me. Maybe that's just the way I read it or read it.
Billy Collins is the bomb, and I'm lucky enough to say that he's a good friend. He was here this September before COVID hit. He came to show up with my friend Coleman Barks, and we had the most extraordinary time 2 days later reading poems at my sister's house. And then we went out dancing, but the only four that showed up were me and Coleman and Billy and his wife Susanna. And we danced like fools at Amigos on a Saturday night. My colleagues were so embarrassed. Billy Collins, I mean, he is fantastic. I'm sure you've heard of him. I love in that, it might be his most recent book. It's
Whale Day.
Okay, it might be the one before that. Biographies, what is it? Biographies for the dead, autobiographies for, whatever.
Horoscopes.
But he's got horoscopes for the dead, and he's got that line about proof. So all right, sorry, Charlie. Luca Bordi was one of my favorite English teachers. Besides Charlie, he let me know when I was 15 years old that his favorite poem in the world was the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. So I memorized it one weekend.
Oh my God.
And then I went to school, like Monday morning, just sort of saying it under my breath while he took attendance. So he would notice that we were kindred spirits. And in fact, we are. But in that book, Billy Collins has this, it's a very brief poem to Prufrock, where he says, you know that poem? The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, let us go, how does it begin? Let us go then, you and I, while the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of Charlie, I could have memorized this for you. The restless nights of one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurant with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask. What is it? Let us go and make our visit. And for those of you who know the poem, you know that it ends with these mermaids singing on the beach, and he almost has his moments of triumph, but he doesn't, right? I will wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing each to each. I do not think they will sing to me. So Billy Collins' poem says, yesterday I walked the beach in a pair of ripped shorts and ate a nectarine. What's your problem, man? And with that great introduction, here come the Carlines. Let's do it.
We're not incredible public speakers, which I know is odd. So we're gonna just play some songs. We're working on it. Taking a couple classes. Anyway, this is called I Can't Drink Enough. We have soon learned that that was a lie.
A little magic to can't drink enough. I close my eyes at the end of the day. Sweet dreams come and carry me away. But the morning light surely will come. I can't dream enough. I never felt so lonesome, stone cold, so blue. I crave that sweet, sweet poison light, like a preacher prays for his truth. Well, I've seen the future, and I've seen the past, and the sorrow of a moment in the bottom of a glass. I've seen smoking mirrors give the illusion of love. I've seen I remember the hurt in your eyes, that cold November that we said goodbye. Dark distant blue, you said if my heart were true, I could never stand the pain. Watch you never walk away. I can't drink enough to make myself feel like there's something more than real. A little magic, call it love. It's right inside nature, sent from above. Give me something to fill up my cup. I can't drink. I can't drink enough. This song Sarah wrote when we were on tour, Key West, I think.
Yep.
Well,
Unless you don't like it, then it's a Taylor Swift song. Just kidding.
she was, I guess she was in the hotel working while the rest of us were. Way in Key West.
When I was much younger, I thought I knew what it meant to be loved by someone. And then I think you have moments as you grow that you can pinpoint because they're really clear and really evident of what it might actually look like when someone loves you a lot. Anyway, I wrote this about that. It's called Road Trip.
like a new start, and there's healing washing over me. It's washing over us, and I just stand there in the pouring rain, wondering how I got this lucky. And I try to find the words to tell you what you mean to me, and you put your finger on my lips as if it is indeed. You say I'm not here for gratitude, then you gently kiss my neck and whisper my love is forever. You can count on that. I told you my love is for always. You can count on that.
Sorry, we too, because we like you. I promise. It's only because we care.
These are the Mclean Sisters. This is Rachel and Sarah. This is Trina Melbourne.
I'm cool under pressure, but hard for a fight. I'm a fool for leisure, but I try with all my might. And I'm good when I'm able, then I fall like Cain. Just like you, we're just the same. I'm a wild, just like you. I'm good when I'm able, then I sin like Cain. I take your love for granted, and you love me just the same. But I'll break your heart, so you feel my pain. Just the same.
I wrote this in Nashville. I was supposed to be writing about trucks and Daisy Duke shorts. So they escorted me to the town line.
Thanks for letting us be here, and thanks for being here with us.
You're supposed to clap.
It's such a quiet environment. We're used to a bunch of different things, but it's nice because we can play things we don't usually get to play. So this has been really great. We're gonna do this one, I think.
I had a dream. I don't remember the dream, but I woke up with the line in my head. He gave her roses. She made a crown of thorns.
Speak her name. He said that this water wash you clean. He's away. He led her from the water. She knelt on the sand and took her Savior for that lonely preacher man. They were married in a winter so cold and bitter, it froze down in the wine. People like to talk about that preacher's crazy wife. She was as pretty as a Virgin Mary, the devil in flesh. Every poor boy's a waiting tree. She made a crown of thorns. He gave her roses, the tread roses, leading down to the river of pouring rain. She had come from something so dark, there was nothing he could do but kneel and pray. Her mama named her May, her daddy left a child astray. Through the preacher's door came born again, seeking his forgiveness. Never his to keep until it began with
That long black snake led her away with a promise. Nothing could have saved her. There was nothing she could do. But it's a lock that's led in red. Takes back for you. He gave her. She made our thorn. He gave her roses, the trail roses, down to the river. Oh,
I'm a facility manager at the Municipal Museum. Thank you guys for coming. Carlene, that was awesome.
Yeah.
The gentleman has magic in his fingers, so it's cool to hear. It's funny because I read this over and over in my head after coming up with it on October 15th, and now I'm realizing how much it's meant to be said here. It has nothing to do with the pictures or anything. It just came from a place after I guess speaking with God. So I'll let you guys hear it. I felt like I was answering somebody that needed help. So it starts like this. Because I know what I see and what I feel, these are forms that I've used to learn this thing called life. Seeing and feeling are ancient. Like breathing and sensing, these things are based on connection to the natural world and the Creator. Before humans gave life to words, we were connected to every organism, like the roots from the tree twisting into the soil, connecting with life, the living and the beginning. Never lose your connection.
I was a piano player too, and I played at the Play When You Don't Know variety that Charlie mentioned. So I figured, okay, if I could play the piano, I should be able to write songs. That assumption seems to have been wrong. So I decided to take a course in poetry, went up to URI, took a couple of courses in poetry, and found those guys were really onto something. So the songs still haven't developed, but my interest in poetry has kept me going. And one of the people I'm fastened onto is this fellow Stanley Kunitz, who died about 15 years ago. He was old, he was 101. So he'd seen the whole century before he became the poet laureate, 10th poet laureate at age 95, which I figure is a pretty good role model for the rest of us. He wrestled with the simultaneity of life and death, which I thought was a particularly cool abstract concept, less abstract as I get older, but nevertheless a beautiful concept. This is called Haley's Comet. Miss Murphy in the first grade wrote its name in chalk across the board and told us it was roaring down the storm tracks of the Milky Way at frightful speed. And if it wandered off its course and smashed into the earth, there'd be no school tomorrow. A red-bearded preacher in the hills, with a wild look in his eyes, stood in the public square at the playground's edge, proclaiming he was sent by God to save every one of us, even the little children. "Repent, ye sinners," he shouted, waving his hand-lettered sign. At supper, I felt sad to think it was probably the last meal I'd shared with my mother and sisters, but I felt excited too. It scarcely touched my plate. So my mother scolded me and sent me early to my room. The whole family's asleep, except for me. They never heard me steal into the stairwell hall and climb the ladder into the night and the fresh air. Look for me, Father, on the roof of the red brick building at the foot of Green Street. That's where we live now, you know, on the top floor. I'm the boy in the white flannel gown, sprawled on this coarse gravel bed, searching the starry sky, waiting for the world to end. And one more from Stanley Kunis called Passing Through, with similar themes. Nobody in the widow's household ever celebrated anniversaries. In the secrecy of my room, I would not admit I cared that my friends were giving parties. Before I left town for school, my birthday went up in smoke in a fire at the city hall that gutted the Department of Vital Statistics. If it weren't for a census report of a 5-year-old white male sharing my mother's address at the Green Street tenement in Worcester, I'd have no documentary proof that I exist. You were the first, my dear, to bully me into these festive occasions. Sometimes you say I wear an abstracted look that drives you up the wall, as though it signified distress or disaffection. Don't take it so to heart. Maybe I enjoy not being as much as being who I am. Maybe it's time for me to practice growing old. The way I look at it, I'm passing through a phase. Gradually, I'm changing to a word. Whatever you choose to claim of me is always yours. Nothing is truly mine except my name. I only borrowed this dust. Thank you.
So each of these readings is really an invitation, but I mean, I don't read enough, none of us do probably, but Stanley Kunitz, I think he actually lived through the second Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
Like, there's a second poem that he wrote after that. And he's also got that beautiful, that Touch Me poem, where he says, touch me, darling, remind me of who I used to be. When you get to live that old. So Stanley lived in Provincetown, and his gardens were famous. And like even Mary Oliver used to wait till he was out of town and visit his gardens. And a couple poets like Marie Howe and Mark Doty have really, they studied with him and paid homage to him. And he wasn't a man of letters sitting in a boxed up room reading books. He was just a man tending to his flowers and writing poems like that from such an early age. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing that. Owen, ready?
2 poems. This one is, I think, self-explanatory. It's called Vaccination. After the shots, not a fever, no side effect, except this pause, or call it fear, of going back to the old life, the world of flesh. I am thinking this is how ghosts, floating edgewise, near visible, and when given another chance to be with us, would turn it down, would turn away from stink and filth and all the mess of being real, would choose to stay thin and empty among the dreams to which they're bound. Thank you. This one I wrote a while ago, and it was based on an experience, several experiences, but in particular, going out overnight, freezing in a deer stand with my father-in-law. And he died very recently, so it's sort of dedicated to him. Hunting season. It begins differently depending on the instrument. Bows go first, slipping between the early weeks, where trees still in leaf confound the aim and reward absolute quiet at the knock and draw and loose of death's short flight. Later come shotgun, rifle, and even pistol, dull blue names, carrying inside them the unequivocal kick that comes at the end of life. Again this season, I will not go out, as my father did, for sport, and also in hope of meat, the dressed bricks in their freezer paper, like money in the bank, and the hide smoked by a woman we knew. Nor will I go out as my wife's father did, after he returned from his youth with unwanted craft and utterly sobered by war. Thank you.
All right, Larry, you ready, brother? It's my friend Larry Cripps. He doesn't get much of an introduction, but what I'll tell you is I met Larry when I was the Poet Laureate of Rhode Island, and I was galvanizing volunteers to help me bring voice to what I thought, what I know, are traditionally marginalized and silenced communities, say the mentally ill, the incarcerated, the elderly, the abused. Larry is my longest standing volunteer. Every other Saturday, Larry leads a group in medium security, writing poems with the guys up there, trying to get through it.
Well, since I have the podium, I too want to announce that I have 2 grandchildren. And I found out just a month ago that I actually now have 2 1/3 grandchildren. I wanted to read 2 pieces that I usually bring up this time of year. One is from my book, A Soul's Way, Soul State. And it's called A Soul's Way to Create is to Unmask. The doorbell rings. I welcome the president, Batman, and the witch, yelling, "Trick or treat!" Yes, screaming, laughing, the man answered from behind my back with a clear bowl of candies and pennies and praising laughs. And off to amuse themselves they go, until weariness and sweet teeth close home doors to inspect their booty and unmask themselves. Every day, doors see a layer of mask removed, we being weary with our delusions, unburdening ourselves to fill sweet heads by inspecting the day's booty. By unmasking, you unmask God, revealing God to God, revealing the Creator to the Creator, Creator to created. The more masks removed, the more you reveal one to the one who created us all to create for us all a new view of the one. In a world of beauty, you add beauty, a beauty that's never presented before, and alas, bereft of it except for your presence. Your masks so amuse me, a trick for which I gladly treat. But if you will allow me now into your home as you take off all your masks, your beauty radiating nakedly, glowing in God's palette, so I may see my reflection in you. This one is not about the holiday of Halloween, but about the time of year. It's called Cycles. I've always loved the fall. By summer's end, the heat becomes an incessant brute. Temperatures then slow down, days get naturally shorter and the tree festivities begin with a few dollars of color. Then each morning new dams grow into splotches and begin to meet other splotches. Soon you are driving with colors slathered along the canyons of road. Leaves change the green ground to fiery reds and sun-browned yellow mosaics. Spiders decide the comfort of my home is preferable. At one unpredictable moment, a cold wind gusts, cutting through light jackets, picking up leaves, and depositing them in great bundles on some cul-de-sac. Then this feeling of sadness comes, an uneasy quiet as the earth says, be silent. Go find shelter from the implying storm. The sun will not warm now. The fields have finished their service as rugs to naked feet. Go find warm clothes and hats and boots. Nature usually gives a warning about the completion of her cycles, like the thinning of my hair and the newly galloping speed of time.
Powerboats go by with giant balloons to get their little kids ice cream in faraway Watch Hill. While on our roof gate, a mother sits to watch two new hatched turtle doves cower on the deck and inspect their wings in preparation for the flight. Flying to Malaysia. During Air Asia's full moon flight south from Hanoi, great clouds build up along a dragon's spine, which then becomes Malay. Between the hands of Buddha, battlements rise up to carve ravines of animals and clouds, God sideways from a Jules Verne voyage upside down. The stewards, elegant, refined, and shy, offer with a sales cart items like perfume or liquor, anything you like, and move above the clouds like preteen girls stroll through a living room pretending to be desultory natural stars. Bad poems. 3 bad poems went out and held up a drugstore. Thought they could teach people a lesson with a big slam, shouting and growling with some wine. One was short and tried to be cute. One was big and long and made everyone cry. And one was all too seductive and upsetting for anyone to listen to. A good little poem, who was helping an old lady cross the street, found them wallowing in the self-help section and read them the riot act. Clean up, guys! What's the point here? Think about it, this is a drugstore where folks need help. Will you offer self-indulgence? They've already got plenty of that. Give them something fresh and bright. Or if you choose dramatic, dark, green, cogent stuff, be sure to leave a handle for them to turn, carrying it around. Cover. There were fins on cars in 1956, and Rowley took a picture at the village fair of some excited children peeking into a tent of fortunes told by a disciple of Gurdjieff. The Hivners spent that summer in Noack renting a house in front of a shipwreck with giant ribs at the water's edge. After a brief picnic there with my mother and her sister, as Mom was driving us home, my cousin turned up under an old blanket in the back station wagon. "What are you doing there?" "Running away," he muttered. We took him back home. Things were so covered up back then. It was a long time before I learned he'd been playing with a new friend in the crawl space under the house and starting a fire. And the last part, abracadabra. "Bee," said she. There was a bee. "Bee again," she sang, and all began with bee. "See," she murmured, and all could see the sea. She knew 2 letters were enough for her rough magic. Things fall apart with 3. So she still keeps her world alive with B and C.
Okay, kids, we're not going to be here forever. We got a song and we've got 2 more voices. Here's my great, great friend, Lucas Johnson. I'm so glad to see him. For those of you who are coming to our salon series at the Savoy Bookstore and around Westerly, you got a chance to hear Lucas sing some songs and read some poems. I called him today at about 1:30. He was on his way to Hartford, but he made it here on time.
Hi, everybody. So I spent my past several days in Hartford, in a way competing with other artists for the attention of people who were booking performances at colleges. And it is very refreshing and beautiful to be in a room of artists that say, "Oh, you're an artist? Oh, we want more of those in you." And that seems to be the energy that I encounter when I wander near my dear friends Melanie and Lisa, so thank you.
Right before I die, I take the river for a ride and float beneath the flowers in the sky. Right before I die, I'm a hero, so I'm high and laugh at all the visions in my mind. It's a long way home before I go. I better even out my rations to roll. It's a long way home before I go. There's some things that I'd like to let you know. Oh, right before I die, I'll kiss my love goodbye and pray that I can come back as they do. I'll make the gesture rhyme is that Early's favorite bites and ask for all the times he's ever lied. And right before I die, I'll go that way home, where those willow trees I know. And when I cross the cove, I'll make the forest cry by strumming all the sapling's favorite notes. It's a long way home before I go. I better even out my rations to roll. It's a long way home before I go. There's some things that I would like to let you know right before I go. Right before I die, I'll read my favorite book inside all those silly notes I took. I'll drink with passers-by and ask a stranger why he
found a love but hasn't found the time. And right before I die, I'll hum my favorite tune and swear you leave the sweet September moon. It's a long way home before I go. I better even out my rations for the road. It's a long way home before I go. There's some things that I would like to let you know right before I go. Right before I go. Right before I go.
Yeah, you gotta do one more, you didn't get a student. Can't we hear one more from Lucas?
I'm gonna guitar that tune. Who really cares? Let's just keep. Okay. I spend many of my summers on Block Island. That's where I play for people much less attentive than you. And this song's called Castaway. I'm dancing in a daydream along the Milky Way. I've seen light of day and I've seen love. The silhouettes on my screens, they make a misty haze. They get in the way of all that make them make. Maybe there is a reason I'd like to know. I hold you with my cigarette going cold. And baby, if there's a reason, please let me know. I'm not the only soul cast away. And I heard Mary and the matriarch are staring in the dark, and loyalty is hardly all it seems to be. The story of the stars, it comes from the heart, but madness and greed have no such subtleties. Maybe there is a reason
First time somewhere and be the closer, but that's okay.
You're not the closer, you're
So let me see, I should say a couple things first. So since, I started publishing poetry around 2011, and because I was finishing up raising my children and taking care of my elderly parents, I didn't have time to pull things together until 2019, when I pulled together enough stuff to put a collection together. And of course, it came out last summer during the height of the pandemic. So it's called Golden Autumn, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm going to read a piece for you from it, and possibly two, if I can get away with it. And what else I should say is that I've lived in Connecticut for a little bit over 34 years. But before that, I was bouncing around, and I grew up in Illinois. So when I was in my 20s, I lived in Seattle. And I met a friend who loved to hike. And if you've ever been out there, I don't know if anybody has been to the Northwest. It's wonderful to hike in the Cascades and the Olympics. And I didn't know much about hiking because I was from Illinois, and it's really flat there. So this is called Spoken Word, and it's about a hike that I took with my good friend Wendy, and it's dedicated to her. Two young single girls on a Saturday, your old station wagon named George and your black lab named Blue, and we were feeling good and free as we set out toward Issaquah to get out of the city, out of our 9 to 5, and into an adventure. It is years ago now. I remember I didn't have hiking boots, just my old college snow boots, scuffed faux leather with red laces and spongy soles. And it was fall, cloudy and dramatic, like it is in the Northwest. Hiking deep into the trees, off of an old logging road, we came out to a ledge, sat to eat our sandwiches, and my 35 millimeter rolled to the bottom of the ravine. But Smart Blue went down and got the thing. After lunch, we hiked a little higher, and there was a moment when we both stopped short because we heard it at the same time. Not a sound, but a thought coming from a giant fir tree. And you grinned at me, because trees always talk to you, but it was my first time. All right, and since I'm ending it for the poets, I guess. You're next, okay, all right, we'll see that. But I'll end with this one, and it's called The End of the World, but don't worry, it's not depressing. Don't try to scare me that it's the end of the world. My world has already ended multiple times and started up again. Old sights and sounds changed into new ones, and familiar folks disappeared and replaced by others, souls I didn't know and wasn't even looking for. Jobs have come and gone, fun has come and gone and come again. So you can't scare me with all this hand wringing, this bell clanging, this alarm message that it all will end. It has ended over and over again. And I have learned to hang on to what's meaningful as I hurl through this carnival ride, taking it all in, eating my white cheddar cheese popcorn, drinking my Miller, sometimes a Guinness, sometimes a Blue Moon.
And now you gotta listen to my repertoire. I had this whole thing planned, I we all know who Mary Oliver is, right? Everybody, if you don't, please learn Mary Oliver. She was my hero. She became my great friend through my best friend, Coleman Barks, who is the translator of Jalaluddin Rumi. And Mary's, when Coleman and Mary last met, which was in the November before she died in January of 2019, she gave him a lecture. And she told him he needed to redo, Coleman has so many books, if you're familiar with Rumi, but A Year with Rumi is one of his best-selling. And it became Mary's Bible. So part of her practice every day, getting up at 4, would be to read the Rumi passage, to go outside and then do whatever she could do. And she worked hard at it till the end of her life. But she got sick of that book, and she gave Coleman this talking to. She was like, we're sick of it. It's been 20 years. I already know what's on the next page. You gotta do another one. You can't rest on this. And then she died. And he and I were hard at work on this book, or so we thought, and then he had a massive stroke and lost language. So the whole notion of doing a whole series of Rumi translations was gone. It'll be 3 years in January since Rumi died, and Coleman's doing the best that he can. You all, those of you who come here frequently, know that I have him here all the time. He's dancing in and out of time in the most beautiful way. He's so patient with the faculties that he's losing, and he waits for them to come back. So we might spend a lot of time looking out the window, and then some clarity comes through, and it blows you away. So, about 5 weeks ago, Coleman said, I think I wrote something really good, but he couldn't find it. And then we took a trip, because we're rock stars, and we got to go with, doesn't matter, but with Coldplay and Jay-Z. So Coleman was on stage at the Apollo. We flew to Malibu. We hung out with Chris Martin and Jay-Z. And when I got home from the trip, this poem that he'd forgotten he'd written, he'd mailed to me. Like he typed it up old school. He sometimes forgets to use the computer. So he typed it up because he knew it was good. And we got so swept up in all the surrealness of that I came home to this letter from him. And this is the poem. And it convinced me to change my life, to quit my 2 stupid waitressing jobs, and to take 4 months off so that he and I can plant ourselves someplace good and try to pull together this book about Mary and Rumi and grief and love and arrival and what comes and what goes. And it's gonna weave calendar time with the joy and grief time, and we'll see what comes of it. But this poem that I got through the old-fashioned mail just kills me. And it's I can barely read it, because okay. He says, Sunday afternoon, I've just made a pot of coffee, got Atlanta, Tampa Bay on in the next room. Brady has thrown 2 touchdown passes so far to Rob Gronkowski. Gronk was Mary's favorite player. Brady's touch was too delicate for her to appreciate. She liked Rob Gronkowski. She should have mentioned Gronk in a poem. We'll let this count for a Mary mention. They could have been great friends. I can see that. Mary and Gronk, arm in arm, walking along. I'll give Mary a football for Christmas this year. I can still throw a good spiral. We never threw one in that backyard of hers. Go long, Mary. Not that long, sweetheart. So from my friend and I was feeling like, here's one poem about Mary, and then I'll finish it up, and then we're going to end. Well, anyway, This is a poem that I wrote for Mary about 6 months before she died, and I had the honor of reading it at her life celebration at the 92nd Street Y, where I was in the green room with Hillary Clinton and John Waters. Hillary Clinton punched me in the arm. And I said, what if I punched you back? And she said, don't even try, they're everywhere. So anyway, this is another part of the book. My gratitude to these friends has no words, and hopefully I carry them with me in every step that I take. Snow and a Florida breeze. Mary lived for 45 years in Provincetown and met a new companion late in life and had a series of cancers. And they opted to move to ugly Hobe Sound, Florida. And it was really kind of deathly for Mary compared to the wilderness of Provincetown. But she settled there. Snow and a Florida breeze. I don't know if Mary is ready to die, is as ready to die as Coleman is, or at least sometimes says he is. But if she is, this might be the time. A little more bird song at sunrise, that final sip of coffee, a week or so of morphine, then the smooth and always too fast sleigh ride downhill. Snow and a Florida breeze, and the swift re-entry into the light she never left, despite the many darks that tried to take it. I do know that when she comes back, she will be riding on a cloud that looks like Percy. That was her beloved dog. She will be riding on a cloud that looks like Percy, and I will run down the beach in the way I thought I'd forgotten, faster and faster and faster, until, at last, I catch up with her again. I catch up with her all day long. She hit me today. I wrote something brand new about her that I won't share with you. You know, but I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but I think we all know these things and still we forget them. You know, that when we're looking for a sign, like Nancy from your dad, you know, Lucas, your grandparents, they answer us more than we think, and then we think, oh, that was too easy, right? Like when you get the instant hit, it's like, oh, that was too easy. They can't really be here. But they are all the time. That's what happened today when this flock of geese took flight and shifted. I was just like, Mary, can you really do that? And the birds didn't answer. They just swung back towards me. And the line that came out of it said, and my tears fell from nowhere like raindrops on a sunny day, you know, when that happens. All right, so I'm gonna finish with one last poem to bring us up, and then you can all stretch and go. But even better would be to stretch that way and buy some music by the Carolines, buy a book or not. So speaking of that, like the faith and how it comes and how it goes, it's so wild to know it. I mean, so many people in my life don't have it. And I have it all or not at all. I don't know what's worse, you know, without it at all or having it come and go. This poem was written on Block Island in the beautiful house I lived in for many, many years called the Hygeia. And I'd been lost, you know, going through a bad marriage and a bunch of loss and grief, and I couldn't see colors or hear birds or feel much. And one day it all came racing back. So this poem's called What It Takes. It was, all it takes is one blue rowboat tied to a buoy and its reflection in this moment for me to go remembering everything. Then a murmur, the sound of children laughing, the breeze snapping, and the way the leaves resist the letting go or don't. The wheels of a bicycle soaring downhill with some gravity-glad rider. All of it, complicit. What I'm talking about is the sheer shimmering faith of the rope that connects the boat to the buoy, and the hands that tied the knot, and the fathers who teach their sons and daughters these simple things I see all day, and sometimes not at all. Moments like this become miracle, oracle. And I know in my deepest heart of hearts that the whole world, this one, is just my own face in the mirror. And I know that I am the boat and the buoy and the rope. And like faith, that holy smoke, I am brilliant and bobbing and blue. And now, let's have a song.
When that fire blows, you'll be coming out. When that fire blows, I wanna feel it. I have to feel it. It's so I climb back down the days of love. Collectively we'll grow into the distance. I felt good. For your soul. You say, you say,